Well, here it is. We're going to review the Weather Lab debut way back in 1999. Pretty big event, and with all weather segments in a newscast, they were always introduced by news anchors, and we'll just go ahead and talk about that. So, of course, everybody knows Joy. We've been good friends since the 1990s when her and her husband arrived here, and she is still in the Ozarks and still going strong. This is Bob Healy. He's kind of the D-Day of anchors. I'm not exactly sure where he is now. Maybe someone can chime in and tell me, but last I knew he was in Wisconsin. Let's go ahead and roll this.
Ozark skies can turn ominous quickly. Just today we had some rain. Nothing real severe, but there's no question the weather is a very big concern for all of our...
Nothing real severe, so I think, secretly I and many of the people who worked on this were kind of hoping we would have a little more interesting weather on the debut of the Weather Lab, but as it turned out, it wasn't the case.
Viewers.
And we all know seconds count when it comes to warning people about dangerous weather, and because it is so important, we're really excited here at KOLR-TV to unveil a new state-of-the-art weather system. Well, how state-of-the-art is it, you ask? Just take a look. Chief Meteorologist Ted Keller is in the new Weather Lab, and Ted, it is a beautiful sight to behold. Incredible, impressive.
I'll stop right there, and yes, it was incredible for the time. I really considered this Weather Lab concept kind of the pinnacle of my career at KOLR-TV. It was really advanced for its time. I have a couple of comments about this overhead shot here, though. First of all, some things you might find interesting. This is 1999, so I'm going to go ahead and circle some of the stuff here. These monitors right here are not flat screen TVs. They are big and heavy cathode ray old-fashioned televisions that were supported by massive metal brackets and wooden shelves behind the Weather Lab set there. So it was pretty impressive, actually. And then we had a projection TV right here. And it's being covered up a little bit by the spotlight right there. Spotlights, by the way, were not LED either back then. Those were the nice hot ones that came on and baked the studio alive if they were on too long. And then we have meteorologists sitting in the background here. I'll reference them later, but we have Tom Turton and Tina Simpkin. Of course, everybody knows Tom Turton, mustache distinctive, still in the Ozarks, still on KOLR-TV. A good friend of mine as well. And then Tina Simpkin, who is still in broadcasting back in Canada, where she is from. So I'll go ahead and start this again.
You said you were excited. I'm very excited. We just teased you. That was the ultimate tease, showing you that shot looking down on what we call the Weather Lab.
By the way, I thought it would be funny at the end of this video. I still have that jacket, and I don't have the tie. And I have a lot of ties from back in the day. And believe it or not, for whatever reason, that particular tie right there, I don't know where it went. I probably got food on it or something, but I don't have that one anymore because it would have been funny to dress up exactly the same, but that wasn't going to be on this video, unfortunately. Maybe on other ones I do.
And we'll go into that a little bit more here in just a few seconds, I promise you. But we built this thing to talk about the weather, so let's do that. As Dan mentioned, we do have some sprinkles.
That's Dan Lucy,
Take
Sports,
a look at our
still
radar
on
scope,
KOLR-TV.
and you can see bands of pretty light showers, and occasionally we have more intense areas of rain indicated by the yellow and red, rotating around an upper level low, which is...
Like I said, we were hoping for, at least some thunderstorms, not really on this particular image. Let me dwell on this for a second. So this whole digital Doppler concept, or at least the Doppler part, that was big in the 90s and into the next century, into the early 2000s. So Doppler radar became operational and organized across the country from the National Weather Service back in the early and mid-1990s, pretty much, even though in '88 is really when it started, but it really took effect and was all over the country by the mid-90s. What was always funny about this is the word Doppler. Everybody in marketing on TV really loved that word. At this particular time, though, the Doppler output of the radar, which is the part of the radar which actually senses wind motion within a storm, we never showed on TV, not then anyway. So everybody keyed in on the Doppler part. I mean, this was all over the country, Doppler 9000, super duper Doppler, whatever. But it was just a really catchy marketing phrase. I do remember talking about the digital part of this to some extent. Now, in today's language, digital sounds silly to mention, but this was before smartphones. We did have cell phones, There was no such thing as a digital smartphone. So, you know, the word digital actually carried some weight back in 1999.
Is producing a lot of rain south and east of us. We were on the fringe of this all weekend. Kind of frustrating if you wanted rain. It just never really did develop. But these showers are slow moving and will only slowly move out of the system, out of our area, I should say, later on tonight. Now, where's the rain going? Here's a brand new product we'd like to show off here at Channel 10. This is Futurecast. In this case, we are projecting rainfall into the future using data from computer models supplied by the U.S. government.
Temperatures.
You can see the areas of green.
Pretty new back then, old hat now, but the whole idea here was, you know, the time bar just moved from the present to 24 hours later, and you know, we use radar. Like I said, you could use temperatures or wind or anything you wanted with this, and it showed the showers clearing out as the computer models indicated. I thought this was great. The only problem we ever had with it, and still have to this day, is that if the model isn't right, it's not what you're forecasting, then you can't use the product. And of course, everybody wanted to use something called Futurecast, right? A big deal. So that was always a challenge. And there were ways you could tweak that, especially if there were temperatures you could change values you didn't like. The radar was kind of harder to manipulate.
And occasionally red and yellow, those are the more intense rain areas. Gradually, with time, from now till 24 hours later, basically moving from west to east as you would expect, getting out of the area, being replaced by sunnier skies and colder air, I might add. Low temperatures tonight will be...
When I first looked at this, and I really don't have any recollection of this, I don't remember why there's no low temperature for Springfield. I suspect maybe it was a last-minute thing for some reason. There was a setting on this brand new system that, you know, maybe there was data being transferred and it blanked out for this particular show. I really don't remember. It might have been on purpose. You know, maybe the thinking back then was, you know, the low temperature is going to be in our forecast at the end, so why put it on the map? That I'm not sure that really works either. But again, all these things were brand new back then.
Below freezing, very close. In fact, you folks living northwest of Springfield will probably go a little bit below freezing tonight, and then tomorrow morning and even Wednesday morning, the coldest night when we'll get into the 20s. Well, as I said, we call it the Weather Lab. It is the largest complex of its type on television in the Ozarks.
Very
sophisticated, advanced technologically, and we'll take our overhead shot one more time, and I'll reference up there. There we are. And you can see behind me, Tom and Tina are here. This is a very nice set to look at, obviously. It looks technologically advanced, but what we want to emphasize is that it's more than just that. It's an efficient workspace, for one thing, and you will see the other meteorologists here once in a while working, especially during severe weather. It has to be efficient because we are the only station in the Ozarks that has 3 full-time meteorologists on staff, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's built for that efficiency, so everybody can have a workstation to work at, especially during severe weather.
And it was during severe weather, but most of the time that lab looked pretty big and empty because whoever was on duty, myself or Tom or whoever, Tina, we were by ourselves. There was nobody back there. There was talk at one time about filling that space with just people, interns, whatever, and quickly dismissed as being fake and silly. But when the severe weather was active, this was actually a functioning center. There were auxiliary computers you could work at. You could collect storm reports. This weather lab got us through it. The first major event that this weather lab went through, its test, was 5/4/3. So it was May 4th, 2003. Of course, everybody recognizes that as the big tornado outbreak where Pierce City and Stockton and Battlefield were hit. Also, there was another outbreak in 2006 in March, also on a Sunday, by the way, that produced tornadoes, one of which tracked over almost the exact same path as the one back in 2003. Then we had an ice storm. That was 2007. 2008, we had a tornado outbreak in January. Many may recall that. What was funny about that is that, you know, when we did severe weather cut-ins, we would always get emails or phone calls saying, would you please stop interrupting my programming? Okay, that was just, we knew we were going to get those. But when the tornado warnings were going off at night in the middle of January, we didn't get a single email or phone call on that one. People were like, what is going on? Scared, really. It's just kind of interesting. So this weather lab really got us through all those.
We can get the information to you quicker, we can update faster, we can have more than one person working on the project at the same time. A lot of computers, obviously, you see behind me here. We'll walk around a little bit. Each of these monitors here has a different source, a different piece of information.
True, but
at the heart of this
most
are
of those
three
were
what we
just
call SGI
not
computers,
live. They
which
were
are the
just
same
recordings or
graphics
stills.
processors that were used to make the movie Jurassic Park, except ours are faster. And not only animations, they're crunching
We always said
weather
that.
data as well. So
I
we'll be
always
seeing a
assumed that
lot
was
of the
true.
Weather Lab,
Not sure.
Bob and Joy in the future. Also, I want to thank everybody here at Channel 10 that worked hard, worked weekends, engineers, production staff
That's true.
to get this
It took a
Weather
long
Lab
time.
assembled, and it was a job.
So a couple more things before I sign off here. You know, it was debuted maybe a little early. Like, for instance, you know, this piece of trim right here just kind of stops. I don't know why. The lighting was purposely done that way, just very minimal, sparse. Later on, much more light flooded this set, and they made some other tweaks, like they made the various labeling over the monitors maybe a little fancier, played with the output of the monitors to make them sharper, and just a couple more cosmetic things that were done to the Weather Lab later on. Oh, and I wanted to say too, the Weather Lab fit me really well by chance, because at the time, and I still am, by the way, teaching at Missouri State University, and I was storm chasing and doing all kinds of neat things. So the whole lab part happened to fit me really well, but it wasn't selected for me. As a matter of fact, back in that time, weather labs could be found in many television markets across the country, so it wasn't exactly a unique idea.
It really was.
Very impressive. A lot
Yeah.
of work going on around here. Well worth it.
A lot of
And that's it. It was something I found in the archives. I've got more of these coming up. I've got a whole box down there on the floor of stuff. So I'll be time releasing a lot of these events, maybe some severe weather events, maybe just some interesting shows over the next couple of weeks. So, you know, enjoy. I've had a kick kind of looking at this stuff and looking at myself with a slightly more hair, you know. And anyway, so be looking for other things like this and severe weather reports and jazz piano on this channel as well. I'll sign off. Thanks.